Hi, I'm Phil Crocker and welcome to the second in our series on how to play better Blitz. If you recall, we had 8 videos we're going to work through. Last time we looked at the introduction. This time we're going to look at system setup. And as a recap, we were particularly looking as an example at a 3-minute with no increment game and saying that you really need to try and play as quickly as possible in the opening, slow down a little bit in the middle game for tough decisions, and then speed up greatly in the end game. And personally, I think of it a little bit like if you were running a Formula 1 car and you're coming into a pit lane and you need to change tyres, you need to refuel. In those sort of situations, they practice all the tasks so that each one can be done in a matter of a few seconds. And you can think of Blitz in a similar way. And one of the things you can do to optimize what's going on and just save the odd second here or there is to look at your system settings, as we will do today. So some of these are a little bit basic. So reliable internet connection we mentioned in the introduction. Deciding on whether to use a desktop, laptop, phone or tablet. We will look at an example of how you can make that decision later on, but it's partly personal choice, what you've got available, what's most comfortable. Sorting out your mouse setup though, we'll look at an example of that also. Auto promotion to queen, allowing pre-moves and claiming draws by 3-4 repetition. They're all things you can change on the system, and that's what we'll look at an example of now. So if I bring up internet page, then this is a chess.com settings. So you see the cogwheel top left, you can access that. You can also see it bottom left. If you click on that, that'll bring up the settings, and there's all kinds of different settings. Right here I've clicked on the left hand side on live chess, and it's at the very top that we see the ones that we're interested in. So enable pre-moves, you can toggle that on or off. So clearly that's toggled on and we're happy with that because we want to enable pre-moves. Always promote to queen, again, I think that makes sense, and we've got that one switched on. And for chess.com, I think those are the main settings you want to make sure you've got as you want. I mean, you can look through the others, and I guess you need to remember to save when you do change them. So that's chess.com, fairly straightforward. The key 2 ones, pre-moves, always promote to queen. So for chess.com, the concept of agreeing to a 3-fold repetition or claiming a 3-fold repetition, that doesn't exist. The system does that automatically. So if we go on to Lichess, then this is somewhat similar. It's actually called account preferences rather than settings, but there is a similar cogwheel to enable you to get onto that page. And here on the left hand side, slightly different names, but we're clicked on the game behavior subset of settings, and here the key ones are pre-moves. That one's already toggled onto yes. Promote to queen automatically, always, is what I've selected there. But you could just do it if you were pre-moving. And then, interestingly, worth remembering, assuming you switched on promote to queen automatically, then if you hold the control key down whilst promoting, then you actually get that choice. And then the final one on Lichess, not relevant on chess.com as we said, is whether you want to claim a draw on 3-4 repetition automatically. And what I've chosen is the middle option of when the time remaining is less than 30 seconds. So I figure that if time is pretty low, I won't necessarily see that when the system says, by the way, you can claim a draw. I'll probably be focused in some kind of panic mode on making moves. So I'm quite happy normally to take that draw. when I've got so little time remaining. If I've got more time remaining, then it may be an accidental repetition when I'm better. So I don't necessarily want to claim that, but it's really a matter of personal preference what you want to go for there. And there are other settings you might want to look at on this page. So how do you move the pieces? Do you click two squares? Do you drag a piece? I've clicked on either, so you can do either of those. Various other confirmations here, and yeah, those are the settings to focus on. So when I was writing my book Better Chess Faster, and in particular the Blitz chapter, I interviewed a number of players, and one of the interesting points that came out on how people set up the system was a couple of ideas for setting the system up generally. So the first one, mouse speed. So I bring up settings. This is a Windows computer, but I brought up the settings. Again, it's a cogwheel to click on within Windows, and you get various things listed on the left hand side: home, system. You click on Bluetooth and devices, and then within that there's a mouse option, so you click on mouse, and then one option you've got is mouse pointer speed. So here I've got it halfway along on setting 10. If I was to put the setting, say 3, then I can try and move my mouse, but it's really slow to move across the screen. So that would make it very unlikely that I would accidentally click on the wrong square, but it would take a long time to go from A1 to H8, for example. So I probably want something faster. If I went really fast, like 20, then actually the mouse very quickly scrolls off the page. So you could easily click on the wrong square, or your mouse could skate off somewhere completely away from the board. So personally, I found it 10. The middle setting is quite reasonable, but you could play around with those settings and see what works best for you. Related to that, I mean, that's how fast your mouse moves across the page. You could also just change the size of the chessboard on the screen. So if you change the size of your internet page, then the chessboard should scale with that. So if you want a small screen, would mean smaller mouse movements. So potentially you could move more quickly. Depending on your age and eyesight, it may be more difficult to see though. So there's a few trade-offs, but you could experiment with some of these factors. So we'll look at one more aspect in a little more detail. So I mentioned you've got a choice whether to use a desktop or a tablet or a phone or any other device. And what I did personally, just to investigate this further, was carry out some tests. You could try some of these tests if you're particularly interested, or devise your own. But on the left hand side, I've listed some ways you could potentially test that. So speed puzzles, I think, is quite a good way of doing things. So chess.com and Lichess all have a puzzle rush or a puzzle streak. If you choose the speed option, where you have to solve as many puzzles as possible in something like 3 minutes, and then that can give you a good gauge for how quickly you're clicking or tapping the screen. Now you probably need to do a few runs, because obviously sometimes you do well on these puzzles, sometimes you do poorly, but if you average it over a number of runs, then that will give you some kind of idea. I tried it on desktop and tablet, and to be honest, it was very, very close. So I've got an average score of 24 on the desktop, average score of 23.4 on the tablet, not much in that there. But I had a few more errors on the tablet, so that was maybe a slight concern. So in some cases that might have been misclicking, for example, or failing to see the screen clearly and coming up with a poor move. And I've put, particularly for promotion, it certainly confused me anyway, doing the promotion on the tablet. So the other one I tried was just playing some really fast games, some bullet games. Normally I wouldn't play bullet, but that would seem a better test of pure speed than Blitz. So I did try some bullet arenas on chess.com, and in this case the desktop well, I certainly scored more wins anyway, and I got more moves in. Similar number of games, and sometimes I was finding I was failing to complete the move correctly on the tablet. So for me, the desktop worked better. Final one here is I'm less convinced on this one, but I did try on Lichess that they have a little coordinate test. It's mainly for learning the algebraic notation, really, but you can try how fast you can click. And for me, I was much faster on a tablet than a desktop. But then actually playing chess isn't quite the same as just clicking coordinates. So I think that's probably the least important. But just some ideas anyway for what you might want to look at if you were really trying to work out which one was faster for you. I mean, subsequently, I've actually, when I've been traveling away from home, I often use my mobile phone, and I found that works reasonably well for me, possibly better than the tablet shown in this test. So it's essentially whatever you're comfortable with. So hopefully you found the ideas on system setup interesting and useful. Please feel free to post any comments or questions, and if you like the video so far, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you really like the videos, or you're particularly old-fashioned and like the printed word, then you might want to consider buying my book Better Chess Faster, which you can get on Amazon. So hopefully see you for the next video.